What is going on, trainers? Drumvillain here, bringing you some more Pokemon Go PvP content, and today we're looking at Umbreon in the Great League, and we're specifically looking at whether or not it is worth running Psychic over Last Resort. Now, I do have quite a long, thorough video on Umbreon as a lead in the Great League. It's actually my best performing video that I have on YouTube. I'll put a link to it in the description and one up at the top somewhere around now if you want to check that out. And that specifically is talking about Last Resort Umbreon and really relates to, well, it's still very relevant now because the meta hasn't changed all that much since Season 6 when I made that video, but there are a few new moves, a few move updates that have happened, which do have some effect, but most of Umbreon's matchups have stayed pretty much the same. Now, before we go any further, in relation to the match I am showing you now, a Pelipper lead with Umbreon is very, very good. Umbreon does very well against Pelipper, especially if you're running this team that we're running here today. Umbreon's your best answer by far, and it can tank those moves, no worry, and you only have to shield if they shield first. Now, we did quite a few battles running Umbreon just to try and get a variance of matchups and try and see how it played overall with Psychic. This team isn't so much about getting the best performance with Umbreon, I just wanted to give it some safe coverage in Azumaril. We all know Azumaril's a very meta, very strong choice for the Great League, and then we're also pairing up with Shadow Nidoqueen to help cover against Fighters and Charmers as well. There might be a couple of battles chucked in here where we also use Alolan Marowak instead. Again, Alolan Marowak just gives nice coverage to a lot of things that Umbreon is weak to, apart from Azumaril, of course. So first of all, let's talk about the on-paper differences between Last Resort and Psychic. So Psychic is a 90 damage move in trainer battles and has a small chance of reducing your opponent's defense. Last Resort is also a 90 damage move, which requires pretty much the same amount of energy as Psychic, but it does not have a chance to lower the opponent's defense. So on paper, they're pretty much the same, apart from the defense drop chance, but that's very low. And neither of them get stab, because Umbreon's pure dark type. So really, the difference in matchups is purely down to whether the Pokemon resists both your dark moves and Last Resort or Psychic as well. Because if all your moves are neutral, then Foul Play / Dark Pulse, whichever you choose to run, is the better move to throw in any neutral matchup. You only want to throw Psychic if it's going to be super effective, whereas Foul Play is going to be normal. And it's the same, you only want to throw Last Resort if Foul Play or Dark Pulse are going to be resisted. Now, don't forget, guys, to subscribe if you haven't already. Hook me up, it's free, you can always change your mind later. And with all of that out of the way, let's jump into some battles. Now, the first 4 leads I ran into with this team were Stunfisks, which is kind of crazy, but hey, Galarian Stunfisk is a fairly common lead, it's very strong. So you got to be prepared to deal with it. Umbreon has a very neutral matchup with Stunfisk. You just throw Foul Plays or Dark Pulses, whichever you've got. If you shield the Earthquake, that puts you in good stead. I often like to shield the Earthquake. They always throw the Earthquake first, and that puts you in good stead because sometimes they'll throw an Earthquake first and then they might try and bait you with a Rock Slide after, and you really don't want to spend a shield on a Rock Slide with your Umbreon. I do think shielding an Earthquake against Galarian Stunfisk can pay off in the long run, especially if they're going to struggle with Umbreon in the back, but obviously you're not going to know until you get there. So it's entirely your judgment, but as I say, if you do shield the Earthquake, as you can see, you're going to be able to get to more Foul Plays and either switch very comfortably or get that shield back. And I think at this point we're going to be happy to let this go down. We might farm down with Nidoqueen, I think, actually, just to get that nice energy advantage. I think we're going to have to, we'll let this through, it's just a Rock Slide. We didn't actually expect them to have that much extra energy, so, but it doesn't do too much, doesn't hit us too hard even though we're Shadow. Now they bring in a Pelipper, so we're glad we got this nice energy advantage. I'm assuming Pelipper's their safe swap if they run into an Azumaril lead, so we decide we're going to swap out and then see if we can get more energy on the Nidoqueen if Azumaril is going to lose to whatever's in the back. They do swap out and they've got their own Azumaril. So this is looking pretty good because we're just gonna play out this matchup, throw Play Roughs, and we've got the Play Rough to hit for nice chunks of neutral damage. And you guys know the Azumaril mirror match, it's an absolute slog of just hurling moves at each other over and over and over again. It's quite slow, but we're not going to aim to particularly win this matchup. We're just going to do what we can, then bring in Nidoqueen, get some energy advantage, and then be able to hit that Pelipper with a Poison Fang. So I think what we're thinking at this point is the next time they throw a move, we're going to swap straight to... We figure there's a reasonable chance that they're going to have they've got quite a lot of energy built up here, so we want to actually just quickly snipe them down with this Poison Fang before they get a move off. They think they were just at a charge move there with those couple of bubbles that they threw. So now this Pelipper's got to throw fast to get rid of us, and we should be able to take out this Pelipper with our Azumarill. This is going to be really close, actually, because we're in Weather Ball range. Can we bubble down? We get to the play rough, and we're going to be able to take them out, and we're going to take this win. That's a good game. The main concern with Galarian Stunfisk's lead, I find, is that they often have answers to Azumaril in the back, so getting an energy advantage with Nidoqueen rather than Azumaril is often much more beneficial against their backline. And Azumaril's just often there just to take some damage and get a couple, maybe get a shield out of the opponent as well. So let's talk about regular Stunfisk, and this is a much better story than Galarian Stunfisk. Again, this goes toe to toe with your Umbreon. It's got very, very similar stats, if not the same stats, I forget. And Discharge and Mud Bomb are pretty solid moves that it can spam at you, so you're going to do good damage to each other over time. I think Umbreon slightly wins on the bulk. It's always good if you can sneak Snarls through when they throw charge moves. It does make a big difference in these slightly longer matchups where lots of charge moves are getting thrown. But with a regular Stunfisk, oftentimes their backlines are weaker to Azumaril than with Galarian Stunfisk, because normal Stunfisk does quite well against Azumaril, and in a lot of teams it's actually their answer to an Azumaril. So it's definitely worth staying in this matchup, because regular Stunfisk does very well against both our Nidoqueen and does well against our Azumaril, so we're just going to stay in. But we get them pretty low. We actually survive that move, and we're going to get this foul play off, so we either get a shield or we get Switch. We're going to take Switch. That's very nice for us. And they're bringing in Umbreon. So we're going to bring in our Azumaril, and like we said, they're not swapping out, which means the Pokemon that they have in the back might also be weak to Azumaril. Now you can see that the enemy Umbreon is throwing Psychics at us, so you can see how hard that hits. It does hit exactly the same amount of damage as the Last Resort, but if you're wanting to see it, you're wanting to see it landing on Azumaril, you can see it landing on mine here. The main thing is, see, they get the defense drop there, which doesn't make the biggest difference. Like, yeah, this Psychic's now going to hit a little bit harder, but not really that much harder to make us feel suddenly threatened by those Psychics. So very, very little difference there. The thing is Umbreon there, as you've seen, has put quite a lot of work in against our Azumaril, because Umbreon just can. Umbreon's that good. So our Azumaril's pretty much spent, and they've got an Altaria in the back, which would be kind of scary, but we've still all got our shields, so we can just shield all the moves, chip them down with the poison jabs the opponent realises and surrenders. So as you can see, for the Stunfisk leads, Psychic or Last Resort makes no difference because you're throwing the foul plays anyway. Now, this is the Nightmare lead, Obstagoon. And Obstagoon is even worse if you're running Psychic rather than Last Resort, because Last Resort hits Obstagoon for neutral, but Psychic is resisted, which means there's nothing Umbreon can do against that Obstagoon. I don't even think the Obstagoon has to throw a charge move. I'm pretty sure it can just counter you down fully if you're running Psychic, and that is pretty much the worst matchup for Umbreon with Psychic. It makes a dramatic difference. The Obstagoon, I think, does have to throw moves at you if you've got Last Resort, because I think 3 Last Resorts will threaten the Obstagoon because it's quite a bit squishy that it's in Ultra League. So we really need Switch, and for some reason we don't really commit to getting it against this Jellicent. This is going to be close. We're close to a move. Really, we should shield that and take the chance that they give up Switch, because I said with this Umbreon, we need it. We just need Switch. There's nothing we can do to that Obstagoon. So that's a very, very poor decision to not fight much harder for Switch there. And they've got an Altaria back that they're obviously going to bring in for our Nidoqueen, and we can put a lot of work in here with Nidoqueen, but we're going to be so low, even if we shield the charge moves, that we're not going to be able to put enough work in on the Obstagoon. We're not going to be able to get a Poison Fang off on it to lower the defense, and even if we did, that would not make enough of a difference for us to be able to win that matchup with Umbreon. So it's really not looking good for us at all. I think we realise that when this matchup finishes playing out, and we realise that we're absolutely screwed, and I believe we do surrender. There's no point shielding this. Now it's just a Sky attack, not going to hit us too hard. Obstagoon comes in, it's already got energy to throw a move at us. This is probably a cross chop. Yep, cross chop hits us for a decent little chunk there, and we surrender. Good game. Now, Obstagoon isn't as common in Great League as it is in Ultra League, but it is still fairly common, so it is a matchup you need to be aware of that you are absolutely screwed with if you run into it with your Psychic Umbreon. And speaking of matchups that the point goes to last resort for, this is the Umbreon mirror match. And both our Umbreons obviously are running Psychic because they're throwing the foul play. So we're going to throw the foul play because both are resisted, but foul play is much more energy efficient in that case than Psychic is. And even getting the defense drop isn't worth it. It's not worth the low chance. You might as well throw the foul plays and get the damage. So this matchup, this can be a long matchup anyway. This is now a stupidly long matchup. We've both thrown 2 charge moves each and we're both still in the green. I would say this is now probably one of the longest matchups in Go Battle League that you can have. Probably slightly longer matchup if you're in the Ultra League with 2 Psychic Umbreons. But yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous. We decide, screw it, we're sick of this. We're going to swap out to Azumaril, try and catch a move. It does throw the Psychic, but doesn't get a debuff, so it's not a big deal. And they bring in a Deoxys, which is nice because if we do lose this matchup, we can take this out pretty easily with our Umbreon. When I throw the Hydro Pump, hits for good damage. That's really nice. I think we're going to let this go through. We're going to see if they got Thunderbolt. Most defense Deoxys do have Thunderbolt. Oh no, we shield that up, but most defense Deoxys do run Thunderbolt. At this point in the Great League, they tend to run Psycho Boost for dealing with things like Nidoqueen, and then Thunderbolt for dealing with the Azumaril. We do get a shield out of him. We swap, and we catch a move. This is actually quite a nice play from us. Do we get the foul play off as well? We do, before they're able to swap out or make a change. So this is either going to take it out or get the shield. Does take it out. That's pretty nice for us. And they've got an Alolan Ninetales in the back. And Psychic's going to hit nicely on this, going to do a good chunk of damage. But again, it does hit the same as Last Resort does. So this is a very much, again, the matchup is exactly the same. Regardless of which move you've got, unless you get the defense drop. And as we said, you can probably ignore the chance of the defense drop because it's so unlikely to happen. You will get it once or twice, but even then, it's probably not going to change the matchups. Right, so we're going to swap out to Azumaril because we know we've got Nidoqueen, and we're just going to save the shield for that Nidoqueen to put some work in against that Alolan Ninetales. Get to this play rough, take out the Umbreon. It's nice. And this, yeah, they have to throw energy to take us out. They can't farm us down with Powder Snow. That's not going to be enough to take us out. They're going to have to throw again. And the time is coming up because that Umbreon matchup was dragging out for so long. So even if they do have plenty of charge moves here still to threaten us and lots of energy, we can shield this up. We've got the health advantage. Timer runs out and we win anyway by default. Good game. Now at this point we switched up the team a little bit because we were sick of seeing Stunfisk leads, so we put a Zoomer on the lead and Marowak in the back to cover against grass, and we pull a Stunfisk lead. So this is a great lead for us with this team. We're just going to go ahead and go straight for Hydro Pumps. You don't want to bait with Play Roughs, it's not worth it if they don't shield. And the good thing about this is because we've got an XL Azumaril here, is that you can survive 2 Earthquakes and get to 2 Hydro Pumps. So we're just gonna go for that. We're not gonna shield this. We don't mind losing switch advantage because we'd be coming out of this matchup with a 2 shield advantage, which is very, very nice this early in the game. So if they don't shield this, we take switch. If they do, which they do, we're gonna get farmed down now, which isn't ideal, but it's not the worst thing because Umbreon can just absorb all this energy. No worries, we're gonna let this go through, and they actually throw a Rock Slide. So now when they throw, we are going to shield because this is probably going to be the Earthquake, and if you know you're shielding an Earthquake, it's worth doing. So that's a nice bit of energy blocked there. build up a little bit, get to the foul play. We're going to take this Stunfisk out, and with 1 shield advantage, hopefully, we're going to be able to finish off this game. The opponent brings in a Tropius with Razor Leaf, and we swap to Marowak. They've got a Pelipper, so actually switch advantage would have been really nice in this matchup. We'd have had Azumaril on Stunfisk, Marowak on Tropius, and Umbreon on Pelipper, so we'd have been looking pretty good. But also with 1 shield advantage, Marowak can win this matchup, which we are going to do, because then we're going to be able to get a couple of fire spins off on that Tropius, put a little bit of work in, and then hopefully Umbreon, with the massive amount of energy we've actually got still on it, we'll hopefully be able to take this Tropius out. It is going to be a little close. We're going to see how this plays out. Now, this is another matchup where, again, Psychic or Last Resort does not matter. You want to go for your foul plays / your Dark Pulse. It's not worth going for the Psychic. You want the energy efficiency of foul play. It would still take 3 Psychics to knock out the Tropius, and it's going to take 3 foul plays, and the foul plays take less energy, so we might as well throw them. We've got 2 here, back to back. We're going to throw them back to back. This is probably going to be just enough. Maybe I need 1 fast move. No, it's enough to take it out. We take the win. GG. So really, up to this point, all we've really seen is matchups where you don't want to use either Last Resort or Psychic, or where Last Resort is actually better. So let's look at one of the matchups where Psychic, hypothetically, is good for you, and that's Venusaur. So because of Venusaur's poison typing, Psychic is going to do a lot more damage than any other move that Umbreon has access to. But Venusaur is quite squishy in the Great League. So along with the Snarls and the foul plays, you need roughly 2 foul plays and a few extra Snarls to take a Venusaur out. Anyway, Venusaur could technically just survive this if it's a foul play, so we throw the Psychic, they let it through, it takes them out. But the Psychic does not one-shot a Venusaur. It hits Venusaur for roughly 55-ish% of its health, so you still need to land 2, and it costs more energy. So I find you might as well just throw foul play. If you're in that position and you get to that move first, you throw a foul play and then you get to the Psychic, I would throw it, just on the off chance that they think they can survive it and throw another Frenzy Plant, and it'll catch them off guard if it is the Psychic and it does take them out. But unless you need to hit them for that extra little bit of health and they have shields down, you might as well throw foul plays, I think, in most situations. So I don't think Psychic particularly makes that matchup much better for you. A great thing about a Venusaur lead, if you're leading Umbreon and you've got Azumaril in the back, is that oftentimes that Venusaur is there to deal with an Azumaril. So once you take it out, oftentimes your Azumaril's very free to wreak havoc in the back. As we can see in this matchup, they have a Stunfisk and a Sableye in the back, so we can just put a lot of work in here. With Azumaril, it's a little scary for Nidoqueen, because Nidoqueen doesn't deal well really with either of these Pokemon, but we've got 1 shield, we've got a Dream. Do we let this through? I think we might have to. Yeah, it's going to do a good chunk of damage, but it's not going to take us out. And we're going to get to, hopefully, this Earth Power to take out the Sableye, and then hopefully we're going to be able to get to a move and finish off that Stunfisk. It's going to be a little close, considering how well we actually dealt with that Venusaur at the start. Stunfisk comes in, it's pretty low, so we can just go for a Poison Jab or Poison Fang here. We don't need to worry about going for the Earth Power. This is going to chip it down a little bit. And, oh, actually, has it got energy to throw at us? It does. The Stunfisk is going to take the win. We were hoping our Switch Clock could come up and we could sneak 1 bubble through, which would have been enough to finish off, but it wasn't quite. That's going to be a good game. So as far as running Psychic or Last Resort, it's looking like Last Resort is probably more useful, just because any Dark type will now wall Umbreon if you have Psychic on it, whereas Dark types take neutral damage from Last Resort. Normal isn't often the best choice in typing of a move to have, but in terms of Umbreon and the coverage that the Dark moves already give you, you're better off with Last Resort, because otherwise Obstagoon's going to wall you, Scrafty's going to wall you, whereas you can put up a bit more of a fight if you've got Last Resort rather than Psychic. But let's see how these last couple of matches play out here. We had another Venusaur lead. They actually swap out into a Stunfisk, so we're going to bring a Azumaril in onto this thing. Like I said, there's always a good chance that teams that lead Venusaur are weak to Azumaril in the back. So we're going to get Azumaril locked on this thing because we could bring Nidoqueen in, but that's a bit iffy because we'd get one-shotted by the Earthquake. And I don't think an Earth Power one-shots a Galarian Stunfisk from a Nidoqueen. Maybe it would because it's Shadow, but maybe not. So we take out the Stunfisk, Venusaur comes in and takes out our Azumaril, and now we're going to bring Umbreon back in, and we should really have thrown the Psychic, I think. We get the shield anyway, so that doesn't matter. We probably should shield this. Yeah, we'll shield this up. And we're pretty close to another move that's going to do decent damage. This might not quite take out the Venusaur, but it should be in Snarl range after if it doesn't. It does take out the Venusaur, and they've got a Bastion on him back. And we're going to build up, and we can just go for 2 Earth Powers here. I think we actually make a mistake and we throw a Poison Fang, which they actually don't shield, which is kind of scary because now an Earth Power from a Shadow Nidoqueen will almost one-shot, but not quite. But because we've got Umbreon with some health to get to a move, the safer shout is to go for double Earth Power. You'll land at least one of them, and then you can just land a foul play from Umbreon. But they don't shield twice, the Earth Power goes through, takes them out, bang, good game. Okay, so let's take a look at a matchup that some might think is awful for this team, and that's Galvantula. Now I don't mind Galvantula lead, but what you have to do is you get to this move at the same time, so you keep tapping on the screen to try and get an extra Snarl through, and if you get that extra Snarl through, you have a much better chance of winning this matchup. Because Snarl is a 3-turn move and Volt Switch is a 4-turn move, this means you can throw one more Snarl after they throw their move and throw your foul play, and it's guaranteed to go through without them sneaking in a Volt Switch, and then you can do it again straight after you throw one more Snarl and you're at your second foul play, and you can throw that before they get to their next lunge, and that pressures them to shield. So the Galvantula does shield, and now we're going to keep tapping away, because you're going to lose CMP tie against Galvantula, and we know they're going to throw before we can throw. So now we can shield this, and now we've got another foul play to throw, and this means if they choose not to shield this, that we're going to win the 1-to-1 shield. But if you don't sneak that Snarl through, this doesn't work. But this is vital for flipping these matchups when you've got something else in the back that's also weak to Galvantula. So they're going to bring in a Politoed, and we swap straight out of Umbreon, because we don't want our debuffed Umbreon going to waste. We can still put some work in with the health it's got left and the energy it's got. So we swap straight out to Azumaril, and we pull out a Greedent, and this was my first time battling a Greedent. I know it's meant to be good in the Great League and the Ultra League, but I've not actually come face to face with one yet. And it's running Bullet Seed. I know it has Body Slam and I think Crunch, and the Body Slam spam is real. It gets to that move so fast, and the Bullet Seeds do add up a little bit just because Azumaril's weak to it. But we can put in some good work here. We could shield this, but we're not going to. We figure since we got Politoed in the back that we kind of... Azumaril's not super useful against Politoed, but neither's Nidoqueen. We're kind of in a tough spot here, to be honest. But we're going to be able to get this foul play off and hopefully take out this Greedent. But if not, we're going to farm down with Nidoqueen. They do let it through, so now we're in the 1-to-1 shield against a Politoed. And this is absolutely awful for us. We're going to go straight for the Poison Fang. We should have probably built up to... Well, we get the shield though. This is interesting. So we're going to let the first move... They overcharged here. They could lose this now. This will do big damage. And then if we can get one more... Well, maybe we get one more Poison Jab through. We're not going to let this... Yeah, we'll let this go. That nearly takes us out, but not quite. We sneak a Poison Jab in. This is going to be super close. We might simultaneously KO here. No, we get one more through. We survive with 1 HP and a dream. And it's our match. GG. So in that matchup, we technically lost lead. We lost a secondary matchup, and we had a bad matchup at the back. And we managed to win that game, despite having bad matchups all the way through. And it really came down to getting that advantage against the Galvantula at the start, to just have that little bit extra oomph to take that game. And again, it's not a matchup that Psychic affects over Last Resort, because you're just throwing your foul plays. And this, Shiftry, is another matchup that is awful if you've got Psychic, because you need Last Resort to hit for neutral. Because it's Dark type, it's going to be resisting the foul plays and the Psychics. If you've got Last Resort, you can hit Shiftry for quite a big chunk of damage. But the opponent chooses to swap out, so we're going to bring in our Azumaril. We're really glad they've swapped out of their Shiftry, to be honest, because it's quite a bad matchup for us with Umbreon without having Last Resort. It means we can lock on Azumaril to their Azumaril and try to win switch here, because we want to line up Nidoqueen with that Shiftry. Nidoqueen absolutely shreds Shiftry. The Leaf Blades hit pretty hard back, of course, but Nidoqueen puts in a lot of work and it is our best option against it at this point. So we are going to shield this with one switch advantage. And that Azumaril's low enough where we can probably farm down just yet. That's nice, because if the Shiftry comes in, we can throw a player off straight away. But they actually bring in Jellicent. So switch advantage has been everything in this match. I'm surprised they swapped out of Shiftry and risked lining up our Umbreon with their Jellicent. But that damage is done now. The only thing is that we are actually down a shield. But Azumaril is absolutely putting in work on this Jellicent. It's almost completely down. They're going to bring in Shiftry. We swap into our Nidoqueen. And Umbreon, because we know Umbreon dominates the matchup against Jellicent so much, we're not feeling too pressured in this matchup. I think this is worth shielding and getting the extra poison jab damage on. We can probably throw a Poison Fang here and get a shield out of them, because they need to shield something at this point because they are so low with both their Pokemon. That's nice. And they're going to get to a move here, but they're so low. We can actually snarl down this Shiftry at this point. So, and we've got a foul play built up. They might have a shield, but this isn't going to save them, even if they've got Ice Beam, which they might do. Now, they got Shadow Ball. I think if they had like 2 Ice Beams built up here, it might have been a little closer. But that's going to be our match. GG. And honestly, we probably could have lost that match if they'd have not swapped out of Shiftry, if they'd have waited to see if we had Last Resort or not, because we'd have been pretty stuck against that Shiftry, and just being able to get Nidoqueen on it really gave us an advantage in that game. And Shiftry is not all that common in the Great League. Well, it's still very strong in the Great League, but you just don't see it as much as you used to, especially now with the rise of poison types this season. But it's another reason why I think Last Resort is probably better than Psychic in the Great League. Now in this matchup we pulled a Bastiodon lead and we chose to swap straight into Azumaril. Just because both Azumaril and Nidoqueen do better against Bastiodon than Umbreon does, because Shadow Nidoqueen can pretty much one-shot a Bastiodon with Earth Power. It doesn't quite one-shot, but it gets very close. Whereas if you've got a regular Nidoqueen, Bastiodon can comfortably take one Earth Power and definitely won't get farmed down by your poison jabs. They punish us with the Defense Deoxys, but we have got a shield out of them beforehand, so we're going to build up some extra energy here. We weren't able to force switch advantage against the Defense Deoxys really, so we decided we'll build up some extra energy and then throw. Actually, we're going for an aggressive farm down, and this is questionable. We're taking quite a battering. They throw a Psycho Boost, which isn't going to do much to us at all. So we're just going to swap straight out into Nidoqueen, and they've got a Medicham in the back. Okay, so this is looking like it's Nidoqueen's game to sweep up. We're going to go straight for the Earth Power here, thinking they might let it go. They do. Bang! Takes them straight out of there, along with the extra bubble damage from the Azumaril at the beginning of the game. And now we can just debuff the crap out of this Medicham. Yeah, this is pretty much a done game. We can just double shield Nidoqueen probably and farm down. If they do power up punch betas, and this is another power up punch, so we're going to let it go. They threw that far too quickly. Yep, and we're going to throw another Poison Fang. This is going to force the last shield, and even if this wasn't debuffing Medicham's defense, with this much energy on Umbreon, we could take out the Medicham anyway. We're going to throw the Psychic just to use it. Bang! Takes out the Medicham, but honestly, foul play or Last Resort would have done it too. GG's. Now, we did take a few 4 1s and 3 2s with this line. We were generally going positive using this team, but this was more about getting some different battles and talking about Umbreon and the move and whether or not it really is worth having Psychic. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 different PvP IVs built, so it doesn't matter to me to have one of each, just in case the meta shifts in future. But honestly, I do think you are better with Last Resort. I would not Elite Charge TM Last Resort away or something like that. For Psychic, I just think Last Resort's your better option. You've got too many things like Shiftry and Obstagoon and Scrafty that are just going to wall you otherwise if you don't have that normal type damage. Any other matchup where Foul Play and Last Resort are resisted, Psychic will also be resisted, such as if you're against a Steel Fairy type like Mawile, that's going to resist Psychic as well as Last Resort and Foul Play, so there's no real advantage anyway. In that matchup, you might as well be throwing Foul Plays at a Mawile anyway. So that's where I'm going to leave this one for today. Going to leave you with this final matchup. And don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you found it helpful. Comment down below, let me know what your experience is with Psychic. Do you disagree with me? Do you think Psychic is better than Last Resort? If so, let me know why down below. I'm always happy to hear feedback from you guys and what you guys think, if you're having success with the teams, I'm helping you out or not. So as always, thanks for watching guys. If you're already subscribed, you're an absolute legend, and I will catch you all next time.